This is our 15th lecture on organic reaction mechanism, and in the last lecture we have done basic concepts about free radicals. And in this lecture we will be discussing reactions of free radicals, and main stress will be some of the new reactions which have been reported in literature, and even some of the lectures they are not available in some of the books also. So free radicals, as we know, they have an odd electron, and because of the presence of that electron, there is a natural tendency to pair up this electron with one more electron. And because of that, these free radicals, they are very reactive and very short-lived. Uh, the common reactions of free radicals, they are abstraction reactions. Then they can undergo combination and disproportionation reactions, addition reactions, and rearrangement reactions. So we will discuss these reactions one by one. First is abstraction reactions. So when the free radical reactions, they proceed with saturated organic molecules by abstracting an atom from the carbon, then such type of reactions, they are called as abstraction reactions. And the selectivity of the free radicals towards carbon-hydrogen bond abstraction of different types is dependent on the bond dissociation energy of that bond. And in addition, some polar effects they also play about the selectivity of these reactions. And rate of the abstraction process will increase if the bond dissociation energy is decreased. The reactivity order for different types of carbon hydrogen bond abstraction is that if uh, carbon hydrogen bond is, say, in case of methane, and we are to abstract hydrogen from methane, and that rate will be less than the abstraction of proton in case of ethane, as in comparison to isopropane or tertiary butane. The reason for this is again the bond dissociation energy. You can see over here the bond dissociation energy is highest in case of methane. So higher the bond dissociation energy, lower will be the rate of abstraction process in case of free radical abstraction reaction. So you can see over here the highest bond dissociation energies in case of methane, then ethane, then isopropane, and then tertiary butane. So the lowest bond dissociation energy is in case of tertiary hydrocarbons, and hence the rate of abstraction is highest in case of tertiary hydrocarbons. Similarly, allylic and benzylic carbon hydrogen bonds, they are weaker than those of saturated systems, and because of that they exhibit greater reactivity and selectivity with respect to free radicals. So for example, if we are having this phenyl hydrocarbon, ethyl benzene, and if free radical is to be formed, there are two possibility of formation of free radical. Free radical can either be formed by abstraction of hydrogen from this carbon, which is a secondary carbon, or abstraction can be done from this carbon, which is a primary carbon. Now under such circumstances, we know that primary free radical is less stable as compared to secondary free radical. So that is why in this particular case, the abstraction of hydrogen from ethyl benzene will lead to the formation of a secondary free radical rather than primary free radical, because this free radical is more stable as compared to the primary free radical. The next is combination and disproportionation. Uh, we know that free radicals, they are very reactive and unstable species. So as soon as they are formed, they are in search of another free radical or an other entity with which they can combine to form stable neutral products. So for example, if in a reaction methyl free radical is formed, it will have the tendency to combine with another methyl free radical to give us a stable compound, that is ethane. Similarly, if in the reaction, in addition to methyl free radical, bromide free radical is present, then they will combine to give us methyl bromide. Then similarly, two bromide free radicals, they can combine to give us a stable bromine molecule. So like this, they can combine to give us stable products. Then at higher temperatures, the free radicals, instead of combination, they can undergo disproportionation. And disproportionation can also lead to stable neutral product. For example, if we are having two ethyl radicals, say, so what will happen? Uh, H radical from one of the ethyl radical will be transferred from one radical to the other radical, and one electron from here will go. That means one electron from here and one electron from here, they will form a carbon-carbon double bond. So we will get one unsaturated neutral compound, and this H radical with one electron will be shifted to this free radical to neutralize this uh, free radical, and we will get a saturated molecule. So disproportionation in case of ethyl radical will lead to formation of an unsaturated molecule, that is ethene, and one saturated molecule, that is ethane. And overall, in general, it has been seen that the combination is preferred in case of unbranched free radicals, whereas disproportionation, predominates in case of branched free radicals. So branched means secondary or tertiary, they will try to undergo disproportionation preferentially, whereas in case of primary or methyl free radicals, the combination will be preferred. Then free radicals, they may combine with unsaturated molecules like alkenes also, and on combination they will give us new free radicals. The most common example is free radical polymerization of alkanes. For example, if we are having a styrene, with the help of free radical initiators, it can be converted into polystyrene through free radical polymerization reaction. And as we know that in case of polymerization reactions, there are three steps: initiation, propagation, and termination. The initiation step is when the monomer molecule reacts with some free radical, and this free radical has been formed from free radical initiator like AIBN, AJA, isobutyronitride, or organic peroxide. They gave us these types of free radicals, and these free radicals, they combine with the uh, monomer. For example, if we are to see the formation of polystyrene from styrene, then monomer will be a styrene molecule. So this free radical will add to this carbon-carbon double bond, and we will get this type of monomer free radical. And this monomer free radical will combine with n number of styrene monomers in the propagation step to give us a macro free radical. And this macro free radical is responsible for the formation of the product, that is polystyrene. And this macro free radical then will undergo termination, which can take place either by combination or by disproportionation. So these are the various termination steps through which we can get a neutral, stable polystyrene as the product. For example, termination can lead to combination of macro free radical which has been formed in the propagation step. So combination or coupling of these two free radicals, they will form a carbon-carbon bond and will give this type of saturated polystyrene as the product. Or this can undergo disproportionation, macro free radical can undergo disproportionation. So disproportionation is that H free radical from one macro free radical is transferred from one free radical to the other free radical. So this will give us a unsaturated polystyrene, whereas this will lead to the formation of a saturated polystyrene. So we will get two types of polystyrenes, saturated polystyrene and unsaturated polystyrene, when disproportionation takes place of macro free radical in the termination step. And second type of disproportionation is that the macro free radical formed can interact with the free radical initiator which is present in the reaction mixture. So this will take up the homolysis of this free radical initiator. R will be shifted to this to give us a saturated polystyrene, and a free radical will be generated, and this free radical again will be responsible for initiating the initiation step of polymerization. So this is how free radical polymerization can lead to the formation of polymers through combination and disproportionation. Then third category of reactions, they are addition reactions. The free radicals, they undergo addition to carbon-carbon double bonds and carbon-carbon triple bonds. So that means either to alkenes or to alkynes, free radicals, they can be added to give us stable neutral compounds. For example, these reactions, they are selective in nature. The addition of the free radical to unsymmetrical alkenes or alkyne takes place exclusively at less substituted group, irrespective of the nature of this R. So, for example, if we are having this type of unsymmetrical alkane, and when HBr in presence of organic peroxides, they are added, then we will get these types of products. Alkyl halides, they are formed as the product. And if you see the mechanism of this reaction, HBr in the first step will react with the free radical formed from the organic peroxide. We know that organic peroxide leads to the formation of free radicals. These alkoxy free radicals then can react with HBr to give us one molecule of alcohol, and the bromide free radical is formed. Then this bromide free radical can add to the carbon-carbon double bond, and there are two possibilities. Either this bromide can get attached to this carbon or to this carbon. So if it gets attached to this carbon, then we will get this type of free radical. If the bromide free radical gets attached to this carbon, we will get this type of free radical. And if you compare these two, this is a primary free radical, whereas this is a secondary free radical. And we know that secondary free radical is much more stable in comparison to primary free radical. So that is why this free radical is not formed, and we are getting product through formation of this secondary free radical. So that is why we can say that reactions in case of unsymmetrical unsaturated compounds, they are selective in nature. Then these free radicals, they can undergo rearrangement reactions also, uh, and these rearrangements, they can take place either to have relief of strain in case of cyclic systems, or these can take place due to alkyl or aryl shifts, and most commonly in case of free radicals, aryl shifts, they are reported more commonly. So for example, if we are having this type of natural product having carbon-carbon double bond, and in presence of CCl4, this will add a free radical will be generated, CCl3 and Cl free radical. That Cl free radical will add to the carbon-carbon double bond, and we know that this will add to the less substituted carbon, and we will get this type of product. So basically in the first step, this CCl3 free radical will add to this carbon-carbon double bond, and that CCl3 will add to this carbon which is less substituted. So therefore the free radical will be formed, this one, this will be a tertiary free radical, whereas if CCl3 adds to this position, then this free radical will be formed, which is a primary free radical, which is not a stable free radical. That is why we will get this tertiary free radical as the intermediate in this reaction. And then this methylene bond will migrate to this position, breaking of this carbon-carbon double bond. This will create a carbon-carbon double bond over here like this, and one electron from here, one electron from here, they will form a bond, and one electron is left with this system. This is the free radical formed by shifting of this carbon-carbon bond, and ultimately this will combine with chloride free radical, and we will get this as the product. So this is how a rearranged product has been formed, because here relief of strain of this ring leads to formation of these type of rearranged product. Then is say this type of aldehyde which is having substituted phenyl groups at the beta position. This is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon. There are two phenyl groups and one methyl group. So when this is reacted with this type of free radical, then this will abstract this hydrogen from here, and this will create a free radical at this place. So we will get this type of free radical. Then this free radical will undergo further breaking of this carbon-carbon bond to release a molecule of carbon monoxide. So one electron from here and one electron from breaking of this bond will lead to the formation of carbon oxygen triple bond, that is a molecule of carbon monoxide will be removed, and one electron is left over here, so we will get this type of free radical. Then 1,2 phenyl shift will take place, and as an intermediate we know that this type of free radical is formed. This bridge radical is a very stable radical, that is why this shifting is taking place, and then ultimately this primary free radical which is there will change into a benzylic free radical which is a rearranged free radical, and this is much more stable than this free radical. So because of the stability difference between these two radicals, such type of rearrangement is taking place. Then this free radical will react with some other entity to give us the stable products. Then is applications of free radical reactions. The most important and most common application in case of free radicals is halogenation of alkanes. And halogenation of alkanes involves free radical mechanism, and some of the important points in case of free radical halogenation is that if we treat alkanes with bromine or chlorine, we will get alkyl halides as the product, and HBr or HCl, they will be formed as side products. If we are using bromine, then we will get HBr. If we are using chlorine, we will get HCl as the side product, and alkyl chlorides or alkyl bromides, they will be formed as product. And RH reactivity of alkane under these halogenation reactions, as I have already told you, that tertiary, they will be more reactive than secondary, than primary, than methyl. So the reason I have already told you that lesser the bond dissociation energy in case of alkene, CH bond, higher will be the reactivity. So bond dissociation energy in case of tertiary alkanes is less, so that is why rate of halogenation is more. Then reactivity of different halogens, fluorine is most reactive, than chlorine, then bromine, then iodine. So this is order for reactivity of different halogens. And as far as reaction in laboratory is concerned, only these two, chlorination and bromination, they are useful in the laboratory, whereas this is not effective because here the initiation step is largely very highly endothermic, whereas this is very exothermic, and the reaction take place violently, and that is why this is not useful in laboratory production. Then bromination is more selective in comparison to chlorination, because the alkane gives the most stable radical with the bromine in comparison to chlorine or iodine. Chlorine therefore is less selective as compared to bromine. The reaction proceeds via a radical chain mechanism, which involves radical intermediates, and we know whenever there is a chain mechanism, there are three steps for completion of the reaction: initiation step, propagation step, and the termination step. So halogenation also takes place in three steps, that is initiation, propagation, and termination. And this is the mechanism of the reaction. The mechanism is similar to what we have seen in case of polymerization of styrene. First is initiation, then propagation, then termination. For example, if we will take the example of chlorination, then in the initiation step, when UV light is passed or in light, this will break into Cl free radicals. Two Cl free radicals will be formed, but this first step, we have to provide energy to the system, because this is an endothermic reaction, that is 58 kilocalories per mole of energy is required to break the Cl-Cl bond homolytically to give us these free radicals. Then once these have been formed, then other two steps, that is propagation steps, they are exothermic steps. then we don't require to give energy to the system, but they itself are sufficient to run these reactions because these are exothermic reaction. So in the next step, this chloride free radical which is formed will interact with the alkane, say methane, to give us methyl free radical, and HCl will be formed. Then in the next step, this methyl free radical formed will interact with another molecule of chlorine, and we will get methyl chloride as the product. Then this chloride free radical is generated, which can again interact with the alkane molecule, so that this reaction is propagating well till the whole of the alkane is utilized. Then termination of the reaction can take place in these different ways, which we have already discussed, that combination of the free radical will lead to the formation of these neutral products. And then rate of halogenation in chlorination, bromination and fluorination, we can see that in chlorination first step is endothermic, but other two steps they are exothermic. Whereas in case of bromination, the first two steps they are endothermic, but the next step, second propagation step, is exothermic. And because of this, because there are two steps which are endothermic in nature, that is why bromination is slower as compared to chlorination. So rate of reaction is faster in case of chlorination in comparison to bromination. Whereas you can see that fluorination is highly exothermic reaction, and the reaction and the first step also requires very little energy. So that is why this fluorination is highly violent in nature, and this is not performed in the laboratory. Then some points regarding rate of halogenation. As I have told you that in propagation steps, they are both the steps they are exothermic. So because of that, the chain reaction competes very much with the termination step. So termination step and chain reaction they compete, and because of that the chains formed in the chlorination they are longer chains. Whereas in case of bromination we have seen that reaction is slower as compared to chlorination. So here terminating process competes with the propagating step. So therefore the chains formed they are shorter chains. Whereas iodination, as I have already told you, that it is strongly or highly endothermic, that this amount of energy, high energy, is required to break the first step, that is initiation step. 229 kilojoules per mole of energy is required. So that is why in laboratory iodination is also not effective. So that is why these two methods they are to be carried out by some other processes. Then selectivity in case of halogenation reactions. So when alkanes larger than ethanes they are halogenated, then isomeric products they are formed. So for example, in case of propane, if you see these three hydrogens and these three hydrogens, these are primary hydrogens, whereas the hydrogen attached to this carbon they are secondary hydrogen. So there are two secondary hydrogens and six primary hydrogens. So the rate, as we have seen that bond dissociation energy for primary carbon hydrogen bond and secondary hydrogen carbon hydrogen bond they are different, and because of that the rate of abstraction of hydrogen from these carbons will be different. So that is why different ratio of products that is formed. So we can see over here, when chlorination is done, then 45% of the product is formed where chlorine gets attached to the primary carbon, whereas 55% of the product is formed where chlorine gets attached to the secondary carbon. So this is because this requires lesser energy, that is bond dissociation energy is lower in case of secondary as compared to primary. So that is why the more of this product is formed, although there are only two hydrogens, whereas these have six hydrogens, still the amount of product formed is less. So this is because of the strength of the carbon hydrogen bond in different environments. And this selectivity is more in case of bromine, that if bromine is to be added for halogenation, then the bromine forms exclusive product, that is 97% of the product formed is with the secondary uh, hydrogen displacement. So from these two reactions we can conclude that bromination is more selective as compared to chlorination, and selectivity depends on the type of hydrogen which is to be replaced from which type of carbon. Then as I've told you that secondary hydrogens are inherently more reactive than primary by a factor of about 3 to 1. Then tertiary hydrogens are even more reactive towards halogen atoms. Though if we see this molecule, if this hydrogen is to be replaced, this is a tertiary hydrogen, and 65% of the product is formed by replacement of tertiary hydrogen, whereas 35% of the product is formed by replacement of hydrogen from one of the three methyl groups which are primary in nature. So you can see that this is only one hydrogen, whereas there are 9 hydrogens. If the reaction was not selective, then the product should have been formed in 9s to 1 ratio. That is, 90% of the product should have been formed by replacement of hydrogen from primary group, whereas 10% should have been the product formed from this. But in actual, this is 65%, this is 35%, and this is again due to the fact that tertiary hydrogens, they are more reactive towards the halogen atoms in comparison to primary hydrogens. And then as I have told you that bond dissociation energy is the rate determining step in these reactions. Higher the bond dissociation energy, less will be the reactivity of the alkane. So difference in reactivity can only be attributed to the difference in carbon hydrogen bond dissociation energy. So as you can see, as we move from methyl to primary to secondary to tertiary, the bond dissociation energy goes on decreasing. And even in case of allyl and benzyl, the bond dissociation energy is less than the all type of alkyl group. So that means selectivity will be even more in case of benzyl and allyl groups. Then different important reactions in case of free radical reactions. First example is Hans-Decker reaction. So when carboxylic acids, they are reacted with moist silver oxide in bromine, they are converted into alkyl bromides, and the mechanism of the reaction is a free radical mechanism. So here what happens is that is moist silver oxide, that is silver oxide reacts with water, then we will get silver hydroxide, hydroxide ions and silver ions. this hydroxide ion then will abstract this acidic proton from the carboxylic acid. This will move to this position, and this oxygen will abstract the electrophile generated from the metal, that is silver cation, to give us this type of silver carboxylate as the intermediate. Then this silver carboxylate will undergo reaction with this bromine molecule, and we will get these types of O-bromo carboxylates as the intermediate. And then these O-bromo intermediates, they will undergo homolysis to give us bromide ion and carboxylate free radical. So these two free radicals, they are produced. Then this carboxylate free radical will lose a molecule of carbon dioxide by homolysis of this carbon-carbon bond. One electron from here goes to this place, one electron from here, a molecule of carbon dioxide will be formed, and one electron will remain to give us this type of alkyl free radical. Then this alkyl free radical will react with this free radical, bromide free radical formed, and we will get our product, that is bromoalkanes. They will be formed through this mechanism of formation of free radicals in the reaction. And this process of conversion of carboxylic acids under these conditions into alkyl bromides is known as Onstacker reaction. Now, some of the examples you can see that in addition to the conditions which you have seen in a general reaction, we can also use HGO, that is mercuric as mercuric oxide and bromine as the catalyst. Then N-bromosuccinamide can also be used as the catalyst because this will produce bromide free radicals, and in all the cases the reactant is same and product is same, that carboxylic acids, they are converted into bromides. Only thing what we have changed is the catalyst. So in addition to moist silver oxide, we can use these catalysts also. Mercuric oxide, then triethylamine HF in presence of N-bromosuccinamide, then N-bromosuccinamide in presence of dichloromethane as the solvent can also be used. And in all cases, what you have to remember is that this carboxylic acid group is to be replaced by bromo. Rest of the molecule is not going to participate in the reaction. So this part will remain same. Only thing is that this COOH group will be replaced by bromo in the product. So carboxylic acids, they are converted into bromides as the product. So here also this carboxylic acid group will be converted into bromide. Then is another application is formation of carbon-carbon bond, which is very important in organic synthesis. That can also be achieved by free radical reactions. And most commonly used free radical initiator for formation of these carbon-carbon bonds, they are organic peroxides or tributyltene compounds. They are used as free radical initiators, and most common is reaction of alkyl halides with substituted alkenes. This leads to the formation of new carbon-carbon bonds. So for example, if we are having this type of organic peroxide, we know that they can easily undergo homolysis of oxygen-oxygen bond, which is a very weak bond. When this is heated, we will get these types of free radicals, and these free radicals, they can interact with say bromoform, and this bromoform free radical will be generated, and this bromo free radical can interact with the carbon carbon double bonds, that is alkenes, to form a carbon carbon bond. So this carbon will form a bond with this carbon. So addition of free radical to the carbon carbon double bond, where free radical is having carbon. So this free radical will be formed, then this free radical will abstract H radical from the bromoform, and we will get these neutral compounds as the product, where we can see there is a formation of carbon carbon bond. Then similarly, tributyl tin compounds, they can also act as free radicals, and tributyl tin free radical will interact with alkyl halide, and we will generate an alkyl free radical, and tributyl tin halide will be formed as the stable product. Then this alkyl free radical will add to the carbon carbon double bond to give us these types of free radicals, where a new carbon carbon bond has been formed between this alkene and the alkyl free radical. Then this free radical will abstract hydrogen H radical from tributyltin hydride, and this free radical will be generated, and we will get a stable neutral compound where a new carbon carbon bond has been formed. Then this free radical can again interact with one more molecule of alkyl halide, and this reaction will go on till the whole of the reactant is consumed. That whole of the alkene is converted into this type of alkane, where a new carbon carbon bond has been formed. Then is another example of formation of carbon carbon bond, where instead of alkenes we use alkynes, that is carbon carbon triple bond leads to dimerization through formation of carbon carbon bond, and this reaction is known as coupling reaction. The most commonly used free radical initiator for these reactions, they are copper 1 and copper 2 complexes. So here what happens is that in case of terminal unsubstituted alkynes, we know that this hydrogen is very acidic hydrogen because of this triple bond, and this can be easily abstracted with this base, any base. So most commonly pyridine is used as the base. So this will lead to the formation of this acetylide anion, and this acetylide anion will interact with the copper complexes. Say for example, copper 2 will be changed into copper 1, and this anion will be converted into this free radical, and then two free radicals of this type, they will undergo combination to give us a dimerized alkynes as the product. So this is how a new carbon carbon double bond can carbon carbon bond can be formed between the two alkyne free radicals. Then another reagent which can be used is aqueous mixture of copper 1 chloride and ammonium chloride, and in presence of air, that can also be used for dimerization of alkynes. So here what happens is in the presence of air, the copper 1 is oxidized to copper 2, and then this copper 2 is used for conversion of acetylide anion into the acetylide free radical, and then that free radical can dimerize, which we have seen in the last slide also. So for example, this androlanic acid which is having a carbon-carbon triple bond, and this carbon-carbon triple bond is a terminal. So this hydrogen is very acidic, and this can be converted into an acetylide anion. Then that acetylide anion will react with the copper 2 formed by oxidation of copper 1 to give us a free radical acetylide of this type. Then two acetylide free radicals, they will combine to give us these types of dimerized alkynes, and these can undergo reduction in presence of hydrogen and palladium to give us phalogenic acid. So this is very important carboxylic acid used in organic synthesis. So this is how andesolanic acid is converted into phalogenic acid through coupling or dimerization of alkynes, followed by reduction. Then this coupling can also be an intramolecular coupling to the from the terminal alkynes to change into cyclic compounds. So, for example, the synthesis of this microcyclic xaltolide can be achieved when but 3-ine-1-ol. This terminal alkyne is reacted with carboxylic acid derivative carboxylic halide having a terminal alkyne on the one end. So these two acid chloride, we know they react with alcohols with the elimination of HCl to give us ester linkage. And you can see this is an ester where there are two alkynes present on the terminal positions, and in presence of copper 1 complex in oxygen, we know that oxygen will oxidize this copper 1 into copper 2. Then in presence of the base, these are converted into acetylide anions. Then copper 2 will convert these anions into free radicals. Then these two terminal free radicals, they will join with each other to give us this type of cyclic dialkynes by dimerization. And this is a example of an intramolecular coupling, because both the alkyne groups, they are present in the same molecule, and we will get these types of oxacyclopentadeca 10-12 di into one will be formed, and then this can be reduced with hydrogen and palladium to give us xaltolide, which is a microcyclic lactone as the product. This is again a very important biologically active compound, and this is responsible for sweet odor of angelica root. So this is used for the sweet odor as an alternative for angelica root. And then is siloin condensation. This is again an example where formation of carbon-carbon bond takes place. So when esters, they are reacted with the sodium metal using xylene as the solvent under odd conditions, they are converted into siloins. The condensation of two molecules of the ester will lead to the formation of siloins. So that means there is a formation of carbon-carbon bond between two molecules. The mechanism of the reaction is, in the first step, esters will react with sodium metal, and we know that sodium can give one electron, and it can become sodium positive. So this goes to this place, oxygen will have negative charge, sodium positive, and one electron from the sodium will go to this place. So we will get these types of radical anion cations as the intermediate. Then these two radicals of such type, they will dimerize to give us these types of intermediates, where sodium alkoxide, two molecules of sodium alkoxides, they are removed from the system, and we will get these types of diketones as the intermediates. Then these diketones again will react with two molecules of sodium metal. Then we will get these types of biradical anions. Then these biradical anions, this electron from at this place, this electron from this place, they will form a carbon-carbon double bond. Then presence of H positive ion will lead to the formation of these enols, and these enols then undergo ketoenol tautomerism to give us acetyliones as the product. So this is how, through free radical mechanism, the esters, they are converted into acetyliones as the product. Then some examples of acetylene condensation. Uh, this is dimethyl pymylate. Again, uh, this is an ester group, and this undergo, because of the formation of these two ester groups, the intramolecular cyclization also take place, and we will get these types of acetylons as the product. Then if instead of uh, acid is used to hydrolyze the salts formed to give us acetyliones. If instead of acid we use trimethyl silyl chloride, then trimethyl siloxy alkenes, they will be formed as the product instead of acetyliones. So reaction will be stopped at this stage only. Further hydrolysis will not take place. So similarly, in this case also, instead of acid, we have used trimethyl chloride, and we will get these types of carbon-carbon bond formation, where further hydrolysis to acetylons does not take place, and silyl methyl ethers, they are formed as the product. Then very important reactions where formation of carbon nitrogen bond take place. The first of these reactions is Barton nitride photolysis reaction. So here what happens is that when organic nitrides, they undergo photolysis, then uh, there is an introduction of a functional group at an unreactive delta carbon. If we see this compound, this carbon is alpha, this is beta, this is gamma, this is delta. So this delta carbon is an unreactive carbon. But under photolysis, in case of organic nitride, if I replace this hydroxyl group by nitride group, that is, in the first step, if I react this with NOCl in presence of light, that means photolysis of this nitride will take place, and homolytic cleavage of this bond will take place. We will get NO free radical and Cl free radical. This NO free radical will interact with the hydroxyl group. NO will get attached to oxygen, and H free radical and Cl free radical, they will combine to give us HCl. Then this ONO free radical will again undergo homolytic cleavage, and this type of free radical will be formed again. Now this free radical will abstract this delta hydrogen, and this will become OH, and free radical will be generated at this unreactive carbon. So we will get this type of free radical. So oxygen free radical will change into carbon free. Then this free radical will interact with the NO free radical, which was formed by breaking of this homolytic cleavage of this ONO bond. Then we will get these types of nitrides as the product. Then hydrogen from here, one hydrogen is present at this carbon, this will be shifted to this oxygen, and H positive will go, and these two electrons will form a carbon nitrogen double bond. This will react with hydrogen and we will get these types of intermediates. And these two, they are present keto-enol tautomerism, and they are present as an equilibrium. Then these can undergo hydrolysis. Addition of water will take place at this carbon nitrogen double bond. Nitrogen is more electronegative. This will create a positive charge over here. H will add to this place, and then OH will get attached to this position. We will get this type of intermediate. Then this will undergo elimination of uh, this moiety and hydrogen from here. NH2OH, hydroxylamine, will be eliminated. NHOH from here, H from here, and this will create a carbon oxygen double bond. So this is how this unreactive delta carbon has formed a carbon oxygen double bond through carbon nitrogen formation. So this reaction of conversion of uh, saturated alcohols having hydrogens at delta carbon into keto alcohols as the product through photolysis is known as Barton nitride photolysis reaction. So for example of this type of reaction is this one, the aldosterone 21 acetate. This one is synthesized from corticosterone acetate. This one through Barton nitride photolysis reaction. So when this steroid is treated with NOCl in light in presence of H ion and water, this is converted into this product. And you can see over here, this is the hydroxyl group: alpha carbon, beta carbon, gamma carbon, and delta carbon. And this is an unreactive carbon. So here a carbonyl group will be formed. So methyl group will be converted into aldehydic group through this photolytic reaction of nitride, organic nitride formed from a free radical mechanism. Mechanism is over here through free radical formation. And then another example is Barton decarboxylation. Here, when uh, these types of carboxylic acids or their halides, they are reacted with Barton ester. These types of esters, they are called as Barton esters in presence of tributyl hydride and a free radical initiator. They are converted into alkenes. So carboxylic acids or their derivatives, they are converted into alkanes. And overall is this carbon dioxide is eliminated. That is called as Barton decarboxylation. So first step is that carboxylic acid or carboxylic acid halide is reacted with 1-hydroxypyridine thione, this type of compound in presence of DCC and DMAP. This is a general method for the synthesis of esters. So H from here, X from here. So either water or HCl, they will be removed for the formation of an ester linkage. So these type of ester formation with this type of particular alcohol or phenol is called as Barton ester. Then when these types of Barton esters they are reacted with tributyl hydride in presence of free radical initiator, they are converted through free radical reactions into alkanes. So mechanism of the reaction is like this. In the first step, triptyl hydride reacts with AIBAN, that is aza bis isobutadienitrile. We know that this undergo homolytic cleavage at these points to generate these two free radicals which are symmetrical in nature, and a molecule of nitrogen will be removed. And then these free radicals, they will abstract, these two free radicals are formed, they will abstract two hydrogens from two molecules of tributyl hydride, and we will get two free radicals of this type, then isobutane, isobutane nitrile, and a molecule of nitrogen gas. Then this free radical will attack the sulfur of this carbon sulfur bond of the Barton ester like this, and we will get this type of situation, and this alkoxide free radical or R carboxylate free radical will be formed. Then this carboxylate free radical will undergo decarboxylation, because we know that they are very prone to cleavage of this carbon bond at this position in a homolytic fashion, and R free radical will be generated with the removal of one molecule of carbon dioxide, and this R free radical will then again react with one more molecule of tributyl hydride to abstract this hydrogen, and it will get converted into alkane as the product, and this free radical is formed, and this free radical will again react with another molecule of Barton ester, and the reaction will go on till the whole of the reactant is consumed. So the driving force for this reaction is formation of this sulfur selenium bond, sulfur stannous bond. So this is how decarboxylation takes place, and a new carbon nitrogen bond formation takes place. Then another reaction is Barton-McCombie deoxygenation. So here the mechanism is similar to what we have seen in the last reaction, that is Barton decarboxylation. Only difference is that here instead of Barton ester, we will use these types of thiocarbonyl derivatives. And these thiocarbonyl derivatives, they are formed from alcohols and thiohalides or thiocarboxylic acids. So these again alcohols and these thiocarbonyl derivatives, they will give us thioesters, and these thioesters, they will be reduced to alkanes. The reaction again is a free radical reaction, same set of reagents they are used. So these two types of thiocarbonyl derivatives, they can undergo these types of reactions to produce uh, alkanes as the product. So alcohols, they are converted into alkanes. That is why this is called as deoxygenation. Hydroxyl group is replaced by H. Oxygen is removed. Mechanism is same. The first step, as we have seen in case of Barton decarboxylation, here the first step is formation of these types of free radicals. Then these free radical will form sulfur stannous bond, as we have seen in that case. Then cleavage at this point will lead to the formation of alkyl free radical, and then this alkyl free radical will take up hydrogen we have seen in the last slide, to give us alkanes as the product. So the mechanism of Barton-McCombie deoxygenation is same as the Barton decarboxylation. Only thing is that here the substrate is different, but the product is same. There it was taking place in carboxylic acids, that is why decarboxylation was taking place, whereas here the substrates are alcohols, that is why deoxygenation is taking place. Then these are some examples of Barton-McCombie deoxygenation. For example, in these types of steroidal thioesters, so this part will be replaced by hydrogen over here. The reagent is this one, silane, AIBN, and reaction again is deoxygenation of this. So this thioester is formed from the steroidal alcohol on combination with thioxanthate esters. Then these beta lactams alcohols, they also react with thio compounds to give us these types of xanthate esters, and these undergo deoxygenation in presence of tributyltin hydride and AIBN in a similar fashion to give us deoxygenation at this curve. Then is formation of carbon-carbon double bond through free radical mechanism. That this coupling is called as McMurray reaction, when two ketones or aldehydic groups, they couple to form a carbon-carbon bond. That is carbon-carbon double bond. That is alkenes are formed from ketones or aldehydes in presence of either TiCl4 zinc copper couple or TiCl3 lithium aluminum hydride or TiCl3 potassium in THF. So you can use any of these reagents, but the product will be alkenes. The product in all these reactions, they are same, only difference is the mechanism with which the reaction takes place is different in different places. But in all cases, the reaction is a free radical reaction. So for example, we will take the mechanism in this case, because this is the most primitive mechanism which was given. So in the first step, TiCl3 titanium trichloride reacts with lithium aluminum hydride to give us Ti in the zero oxidation state, and then this Ti in the zero oxidation state through single electron transfer will interact with this ketone or carbonyl compound. This carbonyl compound may be ketone or an aldehyde, depending upon the value of this R and R1. Then by single electron transfer, this type of free radical will be formed. I have depicted this titanium like this because we have considered oxide coating titanium surface where these reactant they will be adsorbed. So this free radical then will combine with another free radical formed by single electron transfer. Then these two radicals, they will undergo homocoupling to form a carbon-carbon bond. Then this bond will break, one electron will remain with this and one electron will go to the titanium oxygen, and we will get this TiO double bond, and one free radical will be generated like this. Similarly, when it breaks from here, one electron will be generated at this place. So one electron from here, one electron from here, they will form a carbon-carbon double bond, and this is how alkenes they are formed. And Ti TiO from here and TiO from here, they will be again reduced with lithium aluminum hydride to this oxide coated Ti surface. So this is how the carbonyl compounds, they will be converted into alkenes as the product. So these are the various books which have been used for preparing this lecture, uh, in addition to some internet sources which have also been used. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you.